all this evening to race number 20 of the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series as we are here today at the mile-and-a-half Kansas Speedway. 7 races, including tonight, until the playoff grid is set. And tonight, Seth Cole alongside of Samuel Dyer. And Sam, it's looking like tonight's going to be a little bit of a battle of the best from the 2 series.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a special guest subbing in tonight, Boyd Hogan, who's just been dominating the Soder Guys series, decides to come in and race here at Kansas for the Rapid Fire National Series.
Kind of interesting because I believe in the last 4 weeks this is the third time that a driver's kind of coming in, maybe doing a one-off. We had TJ Crampton back a couple of weeks ago. We had Brendan Burcroft back at the Indianapolis Road Course. So you've got, as you mentioned there, Boyd Hogan in the Junior Motorsports number 88, pulling the same kind of thing here this evening, and we'll see if he's going to be able to best the BJ McLeod machines. But it's RSS Racing up on the pole for this one. Jeffrey Meyer's going to start from the point.
Yeah, Jeffrey Meyer was looking pretty quick there during practice in the top 6 of speed during practice. Decides to come out here and really show everyone else up here during qualifying. Honestly thought we were going to be seeing one of the BJ McLeod guys on top because they were the part of the top 3 of the top 4 that were fastest during practice. But, I mean, they're not up there really right now. They're now 3 of the 4 in the top 5 instead of just being all up front.
Also, we got to talk about with the fact that there are just 7 races remaining here in the playoffs, or till the playoffs. Point standings are really close around that bubble spot. Kevin Roy right now currently holds that 12th and final playoff position, but he's only got 33 points over Cody Jordan, 34 points over Barry Stevens, who has been on quite a roll here in the last couple of weeks. And Brandon Andrews is not that far out either. He's only 36 points. And with the fact that we've still got more than 5 races to go, that points deficit can easily be made up.
Oh, it definitely can be made up. And you've got a lot of potential here in the next couple of races. But, you know, here at Kansas, it's going to be fuel strategy. And it always seems to be like that here at Kansas. Fuel and tire strategy is going to be thrown out for 150 laps. Looks like it's going to be a 2-stopper if we go green all the way to the end.
So obviously, based on the fact this is 150 laps, I usually kind of take into consideration how many sets of tires these drivers are given as to how abrasive this track may be on those tires. They've been given 5 sets for this one. So on a scale of like 1 to 5, as opposed to other mile-and-a-half tracks, does that mean Kansas is maybe one of the toughest tracks on tires?
On tires, extremely tough. Just because of the way that this track is banked around, it's almost always you're turning this machine as pace car pulls off. We're about to go green here with Jeffrey Meyer being the leading point.
Jeffrey Meyer, who comes into this race 8th in the playoff stands, 150 points ahead of the cut line, but he wants a victory before we get into the chase for the championship as we are racing here at Kansas.
And it was the BJ McLeod guys on the high side with Logan Elton trying to push Santini to the lead, but just not able to. And below them, it's going to be Boyd Hogan trying to make a hard charge up into second place.
We're having a little bit of an issue here with our ticker, so we're going to try and see if we can get that fixed as this battle is on for the second position still between Hogan in the 88, Santini in the 99, and a lot of drivers in practice were all migrating up to that.
Oh, no, Jeffrey Meyer taking Santini. No caution out right now, both in the grass, coming back on track, and now Logan Helton's in the lead with Boyd Hogan right behind him.
Santini was able to keep his car straight. He's gotten it back out onto the course. Jeffrey Meyer, however, was stuck in the grass. You saw the rear tires spin as he tried to get it back out there. That was first and second here on the first lap, getting involved in that wreck off of 4.
And now on the new charger up to second, that's going to be Vincent Arthur and that 815 machine. And our ticker, it's going to be the 005. But Vincent Arthur, he is coming in, and that 15 machine looking pretty quick. He qualified up in 7th place, already up to second.
Vincent Arthur, of course, filling in the number 15 for JD Motorsports. That was formerly driven by John Jones. Jones was actually up there in position to possibly make it into the playoffs, but has no longer signed with JD Motorsports for the remainder of the season, as we had one of the RSS cars up front, Jeffrey Meyer. He's faded back. The highest of that team now would be Joshua Gordon, currently in that 4th position, a driver who went to victory lane a few weeks ago.
And a lot of machines deciding to drift onto the high side and really make this high side work. And I think due to the fact that the track is so cool, you can really use the top side or the low side Also, just because of how loose these machines are on the low side, it's a lot safer to ride around the wall.
Apologize for the thing popping up there. We're trying to see if we can get the ticker to pop back up. And there we go. We finally have the ticker up here for you guys to show you the live timing and scoring. As right now, things have gotten pretty well single-filed, at least amongst the top 6 or so, but then you get the really good racing from 7th place on back. That's where new driver in 39, Matthew Beeman, making his first start of the season. He's trying to hold off Brandon Andrews, James Love, Chris Whitaker back here as well.
James Love is digging on the inside, trying to make as much move as he can, but almost got into Brandon Andrews in that 24 machine. And you got to give credit James Love in the 7, trying to make as much ground as he can on the inside, just not able to get the momentum off the corner, and that's where he's losing a lot of time.
Matthew Beeman, we mentioned, making his first starts. A couple of other drivers back here in the pack that are also making their series debut. MBM Motorsports number 13 with Tracy Powers, currently in the 17th position. And also a little bit further back here, I think this is his first start. Nope, I'm sorry, this is actually his second start. I didn't recognize the name, but he was in the race last week. That is Matt Knight in the 01, another entry out of JD Motorsports.
Battle for the lead is heating up as you've got Arthur right on the back bumper of Helton, and this 8 machine is trying to hold off the 15, but it's kind of getting a little difficult here as it looks like Vincent Arthur has the better exit off of 4. We'll see if he can get that 15 machine going here out of this corner.
Now we have to remember, for Logan Helton, he's out here trying to earn playoff points. He's already been to victory lane twice this season. He's locked into the playoffs, but right now he's just trying to get as many bonus points and extra playoff points towards the chase for the championship to kind of counter his BJ McLeod Motorsports teammate David Santini. The car that's passing him for the lead, Vincent Arthur, though, he runs full-time in the Soda Guys Cup Series, so he's just out here trying to win this race.
Vincent Arthur able to use the slide job to get in front of the 8 machine, and it's almost looking like we're watching dirt track racing as the 15 car into the wall, entering 3.
And this is one of these tracks where if you get up into the wall, it hugs you in. It is so difficult to get off of. And we saw all the speed lost through 3 and 4 by Vincent Arthur. First place goes to Helton, second to Gordon, and Barry Stevens will now move into the podium spot.
And now all the action's back there for second, as Gordon's going to be trying to hold off Stevens, and Arthur's going to try to come back and redeem himself. And then behind them, battle for 5th, also going on with Jordan and Hogan right there on top of one another.
Yeah, of course, these two are teammates out of Junior Motorsports, but Cody Jordan is trying to battle for a spot in the playoffs, 33 points behind Kevin Roy. Right now, Roy is struggling back in the 16th position, so if Cody Jordan can stay where he's at, he's going to gain a lot of points trying to get that 12th and final playoff spot.
You know, this is one of the few times that we've seen ourselves at a 1.5 mile, and it is not just steaming hot on the track. This is probably the coolest track these drivers have ever worked on, as the battle for 3rd place is still underway, with Barry Stevens trying to make the pass and get 3rd back under his belt and not able to do so. But this track temp right now at 82 degrees for the track temp, that is the coolest we've seen so far. We're used to seeing the track temp around 100 to 110 degrees for these drivers and them slipping around.
And I think a thing for that, too, that we're seeing as opposed to a lot of the other 1.5 miles that have those higher temperatures is drivers are actually able to get a run on that inside line, a very multi-groove type 1.5 mile track here. Obviously, everyone's really trying to go up there to the wall. That's the faster way around the racetrack, but the inside line, as we see right here, Chris Whitaker making the move on James Love for 9th place. The inside line is actually viable here.
Yeah, you want to throw your car to the inside. You have to put your car where the other machine isn't. And if you get a lot of momentum and you can dig it a lot harder into the inside line, a lot better than the outside line can. And that's where we're seeing a lot of these passes being made, as Jordan going to be able to make the pass on Stevens and move himself up to the 4th position.
Now, I'm noticing back here, you know, obviously this is an open setup league. A lot of teammates will kind of work off the same base setup, but kind of tweak it to their own personal driver preferences. And there's a group of Colleague racing cars from 11th on back through 13th. Evan Longacre there in the 10, Carson Bowers the 16, and Matt White in the 11. Something tells me they're all running on the same setup, but I almost wonder if they're all maybe doing the same type of strategy here as well.
It seems like they're always around one another at every single track, just lingering around one another. But Longacre there on that front stretch, he was trying to use the apron to get a little bit more speed, and that almost costed him as that transition from the racing surface to the apron is a little tricky to get onto. That 10 machine got extremely wiggly.
Well, not only that, but you use that apron on the front straightaway. These cars like to be able to drive it deep into the corner into turn one, but in order to do that, you have to be up against that outside wall. You see right there, James Love moving up the track towards the outside wall so that way he can arc it into the corner. If you're Evan Longacre down there on that apron, it makes it even more difficult trying to swing it up to that outside line. It may mess up your corner.
And these drivers got to be careful. All that they were reporting about, I asked how they feel about this racetrack and how they feel about the race. They said loose as they're going to see Love up into the wall in that 7 machine.
It's a very fine cushion here on that outside line. If you overstep it, there's going to be no grip for your right side tires, and it's going to send you up into the wall. I'll tell you a guy who is on the move. David Santini, we saw him have that early contact with Jeffrey Meyer off of turn 4 on the first lap when they were running first and second. Santini dropped all the way back to the 23rd position. We're 15 laps in. He's all the way up inside the top 15 now. So that car, even despite that right front damage you can see, that car is flying.
Yeah, both Santini and the 12 machine behind him and Roger Gregory, both of them have heavy front right damage that they're going to have to try to limp with until they can get either a caution or they go into the pits to get repairs done. But both machines doing a decent job. At Santini, he fell back all the way to 23rd position, has moved all the way up to 15th.
Battle for 6th. Cody Jordan to the inside of Matthew Beeman. And there's Brandon Andrews now going to make a move as well. That'll be for 8th. Chris Whitaker looking on in the 2 car. A couple of these guys in this group are already locked into the playoffs, that being the 2 of Chris Whitaker. But Jordan and Andrews, those are 2 guys we mentioned that are less than 40 points behind the cutoff line coming into this race.
And Beeman, just his car looks irritated. He got into the wall last lap coming off of 2, and ever since he got into the wall, he's just been slowly just trying to re-center himself because that car's just been wiggling ever since.
Joshua Gordon may have had a little bit of an issue there as Vincent Arthur was able to make the pass on him for second place very easily. So move the 15 back up to the runner spot. Gordon now in that 3rd position. And we talked to Joshua after he had that victory a few weeks ago of just how important it was to get that win, have the pressure taken off knowing you're making it into the playoffs. And I think we're seeing right now maybe a more aggressive side out of Joshua Gordon now, realizing that he can now go out there and try and pick up another victory, not have to really worry about keeping his car in one piece.
And if you didn't know what track we were at and you just saw most of the cars out there, you'd think that we're at Darlington because of how much these drivers have been smacking that outside wall off of exit and entry into these corners. I'm pretty sure more than half the cars out here have some right front damage of some sorts just because how much they've been scraping off this outside wall.
You mentioned about the fact drivers were indicating to you that this track and the way the setups are and everything is loose. As this run goes on, that's not going to get any better. The right front is going to heat up, so they'll have a little bit more of a tighter sensation coming off the corners, but as those rear tires start to wear, that lack of rear grip's going to make these cars even looser into the corner. As Matthew Beeman, we're watching him on that top side continuing to lose spots, and you're absolutely right. I mean, we're seeing a lot of counter steering out of that 39 car right now.
It does not look happy in that machine. And, drivers are talking about how it's loose in, loose out, and really it's a little bit snug in the middle. So when you see these cars start to drift up into the wall in the middle of the corner, it's just because it's so tight. They can't turn the car down low. And then off exit, they've been turning so much that they could just snap that car in a second. They've got to be extremely careful as we're only about 20 laps into this thing, coming to 21 laps.
And one thing that I'm finding very interesting here as well, a lot of the tracks we go to, we see when we get into a longer run, especially around the 20-lap mark, things get really spread out. We don't see a whole lot of side-by-side battling, but we're seeing side-by-side battling.
3 wide for second.
Oh, gracious.
As Boyd Hogan decided, I'm going to put my nose under there, making it 3 wide off the exit of 2. Going to pass 1 for 3rd, and now going straight to 2nd, trying to get by Vincent Arthur.
And remember, again, these guys, the 88 and the 15, they're going for the Soda Guys Cup Series championship. They're not going for the championship here, so they're just out here trying to win for the respective teams of JD Motorsports and Junior Motorsports.
Yeah, these guys are just making a show out there. It looks like the 18 machine of Zachary Smith has pulled his car into the pits. Heavy damage on that right side of his machine. So the 18 machine looks like he might be done. Yeah, he just parked that car in the back.
It's kind of interesting, too, as I'm looking at the upcoming schedule and everything. these drivers here, these Cup drivers that are filling in this evening in this Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, they're not going to be going tomorrow night here to Kansas Speedway. It's actually the makeup race at Indianapolis tomorrow night for these drivers, but guess where Kansas is on their schedule in the Cup Series? In the playoffs. So maybe getting a little bit of taking down some notes for when these drivers eventually, if they get into the playoffs, to be able to have a little bit of an advantage over the rest of their playoff competition.
Possibly, but if you go to 7th on back, you've got a cluster of machines, and Cody Jordan just got into the wall and was riding it coming off of 2. This 9 machine, he's having some issues, just like what we were seeing Beeman have a couple of laps ago, but these cluster of machines, they are all on top of one another. I thought for a second we were about to see our first caution of the day.
I think right now we can safely say the Colleague Racing drivers set up for the long run, because Longacre, Bowers, and Matt White, they have been in a train working their way into the top 10 and now trying to work their way to the top 5. It's been really fun to watch because none of them have made moves on each other, but they have just been running all in line together and making forward progress. We just saw them get around a couple of the junior motorsports cars, moving these 3 up to 7th, 8th, and 9th.
And we were just talking about Matthew Beeman, and it looks like he's going to be parking that 39 machine for the day. Going to be finishing out 23rd.
Another driver also in the garage area, Zachary Smith in the 18, went to the garage area about 4 laps ago, so he will finish in the 24th position as this battle up here for 3rd place, it is not over. That is Vincent Arthur looking in his rearview mirror and sees a full mirror of the 93 of Joshua Gordon.
Yeah, these guys, Joshua Gordon, when he won that race, it was all about saving his tires, and I thought he was doing a great job here at the start of this run, and then he got into the wall, and he's lost a ton of momentum. Now he's been battling it out for that 3rd place position, and it's just been a struggle for this 93 machine to really make any movement now, kind of stuck in 4th place. Cars that have been making some big moves, David Santini up to 13th now.
And he just got around James Love as Roger Gregory, going to get around the 7 machine as well. So Santini up to 13th, Gregory now up to 14th. Couple of drivers, though, that have struggled early on. Jeffrey Meyer, of course, who was spun from the race lead back in the very first lap. He is still running, but he is 22nd, last car on the lead lap. And another driver that's struggling as well, and I don't know what's been going on the last couple of starts for this machine, but Jacob Shorba back here in the 21st position, and just looking in terms of lap times, he is running nearly a second and a half slower than race leader Logan Helton. Shorba's already locked into the playoffs, but we've just not been seeing the kind of speed out of Shorba the last 3 or so weeks as we saw when we first started broadcasting this series.
Yeah, for Shorba, it really didn't help the fact that he actually started this race in the pits, so he was already behind, trying to catch up with everyone else, and due to the fact that he's been running as hard as he is, he's running decent lap times compared to everyone else, because the cars he's running down, they've all got some type of damage and have been just lingering around, as this one machine should be passing both, as he just got by Matt Knight. He'll be getting by Hilton Young here soon, as that one machine's running just as quick as everyone else in front of him after he gets by this 08 machine.
Chris Whitaker next on the hit list for the Colleague Racing train. He was able to hold off Evan Longacre through 3 and 4, as Longacre appeared to get a little tight through the center of 3 and 4 and almost looped it around as well. Whitaker continuing to hold that preferred outside line, and now Longacre is going to clear him for the position. We'll see if his teammates Carson Bowers and Matt White can do the same. Ooh, Whitaker going to cross him over, and I don't think Longacre expected him to be down there.
Absolutely was not expecting him to make that type of a move, but a great crossover move by Whitaker to continue to keep that position and to keep these colleague guys behind him. I'm looking at the colleague guys and their lap times compared to our leaders, and they're about 0.3 off of what our top about 5 drivers are running. So they're running quick, yes, but they're going to stall out, and it looks like 6th place might be the end of the run for these guys trying to catch up to anyone in front of them.
Well, Boyd Hogan has been able to move up into the 2nd position, and the last time I looked, whoa, Logan Helton getting loose there as he's trying to get around Jeffrey Meyer and put him a lap down, but the last time I looked, it was about a 1.5 second difference between Helton and Hogan. It's now been cut down to half of that, 0.8 of a second between those two now, going through 3 and 4.
I would like to say we're surprised to see Helton getting loose, but I'm really not at this point. He just loves to have that machine just slightly loose and wiggling off the corner at almost every track we're at. And just got to be careful when you're around some lap machines like he was right there.
Yeah, both these drivers actually playing into the MOs that we've seen all season long. Helton getting loose there into the corner, and Boyd Hogan over in the Soda Guys Cup Series always seems to be really good on the long run, and that's what he's utilizing right now, trying to close in on Logan Helton for the race lead.
Doing a great job at it as he's trying to get by Jeffrey Meyer at this moment and does get by the 38 machine.
Another car has gone to the garage area. A driver that was actually making forward progress, but you mentioned he had that front end damage. Roger Gregory has pulled the number 12 into the garage, and why that's somewhat important, we had 24 cars take the green flag in tonight's race, and Gregory came into this event 11th in the playoff points. I thought with where he was running, he'd put himself pretty safely in with a nice cushion, but with him out of the race, we have to highlight the 65-point gap he had between himself and that cutoff line. And with some of these guys up here, like Barry Stevens running well up in the top 5, Cody Jordan just outside of the top 10, those guys could start eating away at that little bit of an advantage he had coming into tonight's race at Kansas.
Yeah, Roger Gregory went back to look, and it happened a couple of laps ago when he got loose off of 2, almost smacked in the inside wall, came up, almost collected James Love coming back up, and then after that decided it's time to just park this thing, not feeling comfortable in the 12. His day is done, like you said, and you hate to see the 12 machine go out the way that he did, but that is another machine taken out as we're only coming to lap 35 once the leader crosses the line.
Just saw Jacob Shorba in the 1 get put a lap down. He, along with Jeffrey Meyer, Hilton Young, and Matt Knight, all currently running -1 to the race leader. The question is, though, who is that race leader going to be within these next 5 laps? Because now the gap is 0.4 of a second from Helton back to Hogan.
Yeah, and Hogan's just been gaining ever so slightly. Has done a fantastic job on saving his tires and having this long run. Still 0.2 faster that last lap compared to Logan Helton, and this 88 machine looking like it's going to pass the 8 machine in the next about 2 to 3 laps.
That last time by, the fastest car on track was Boyd Hogan. Second fastest was Evan Longacre, back in the 7th position. This time around, it is Logan Helton feeling the pressure. He turned the fastest lap by 2/100ths over Boyd Hogan. So we'll see if he's now maybe was saving his stuff a little bit here, waiting till the 88 started closing up, and now see if he can try and put a little bit of a gap between himself and Hogan in that Chevrolet. Drop back to some more battling, and the best battling that's going on right now is going on with the Colleague racing cars trying to get around the RCR Chevrolet of Chris Whitaker in that 6th place battle.
Yeah, it just seems like the 2 machine might be holding them up, but at the same time, they're all in line trying to work together. And right now, it looks like Longacre might be trying to use this lap machine as a pick as they go 3 wide by around him. Carson almost ran right into Matt Knight right there.
Matt Knight was trying to figure out which line to hold as he had a car up high, a car down low. It looks like Hilton Young's going to choose the apron to get out of the way of these guys, but a close call there. And a couple of weeks ago, we had an MBM Motorsports car and TJ Crampton go to victory lane. How about the 13 out of that stable? Tracy Powers in his first start of the year, currently in that 9th position. Great run for that Toyota Supra.
Looking at cars that just came into the pit road, Barry Stevens looked like he was coming into the pits and spun out while entering the pits, coming in, losing a ton of time, ramming the front end into the inside wall. 78 machine, heavy damage in the pits.
Looks like he did not spend any extra time repairing that damage, however, as I believe Kevin Roy... Oh, we had a car in the wall there off of 4. That was Jeffrey Meyer in the 38. I meant to transfer the camera to the 4 machine, clicked on the 38 instead, and saw him smack the wall as Roy is finally going to come down, and he's going to make a pit stop in that Flex Seal Chevrolet.
So this is going to be the start of pit road being open for drivers to come on in, and some of these drivers are coming in just because of how much damage they have on the right side. Feel like they need to come in, and just because of the difference in tires. But you know, the drop off so far for our leaders from their best lap time to now is about 2 seconds at the moment. So if you come in and pit early, you could be gaining a lot of time here, as it looks like James Love, our next driver coming into the pits.
Chris Whitaker is also going to come in the 2 machine as the battle for the lead continues on between Logan Helton and Boyd Hogan, closing in on these pit stops. James Love in the 7 has also hit pit road, as you mentioned. And you talked about before we came on the air here, the potential of a 2-stop race. Does this still put them in the fuel window for a 2-stop race, or does this seem a little bit earlier for these guys to be coming in?
If they're pitting this early, it's now looking like a 3-stop, possibly for these drivers, or even a 3-stop is probably the marker they're going for. But anywhere from 3 to possibly 4, 3 stops is what we're looking for. Most of these drivers up front, though, look like they're going to be trying to hit that marker to turn this into a 2-stop race. So let's try to get to at least lap 50. Other drivers that have pit early, that is a long run for them to pit, but they're trying to gain as much time as they can. So might as well try something different.
We saw there Barry Stevens trying to get one of his 2 laps back the hard way, but that front end damage appears to really be affecting him, and we'll have to see how that affects him for the long run as well. And obviously with Barry Stevens having that issue, you'd have to think that a lot of drivers going to have to be very careful getting onto pit road here, because we talk a lot of times at the tracks we go to, the huge transition of the banking in the corners to the flat apron. And apparently Kansas is one of those things. As Barry Stevens, apparently that damage really affected him too much. He's bringing the 78 back to pit road again.
Yeah, no, he should have been blowing by everyone there and really passing our leaders with ease, and he was struggling just to stay pace with our leaders. So that 78 machine and BJ McLeod, 2 of their machines already having rough days here, as we're not even at the halfway marker.
So Stevens going to lose even more laps, as we almost had some contact there through 3 and 4. Boyd Hogan trying to get around Logan Helton. Now for Helton, with these tires out there being 44 laps old, what he's got to do is continue to run that outside line, force Boyd Hogan to try the inside line. But we've already seen when Evan Longacre was trying to make a pass on Chris Whitaker earlier, at that point the tires were about 25 to 30 laps old. And Longacre was having a lot of issues being able to get back to the throttle on that inside line.
Yeah, he's trying everything he can right now, but it's such a struggle at the moment. The tires are just going to get worse and worse, but it seems like when they're not around traffic, these guys are running just as fast as our leaders right now, as it looks like pass for the lead underway. Boyd Hogan, very strong into turn number 1, able to make the pass easily, and Logan Elton looks like slow down just a bit there off of 2, not able to get the launch Boyd Hogan wanted.
That was a close call as he attempted the slide job. He did clear Logan Helton, but then Helton got back to his bumper coming out of turn 2, and there was some contact between the 2 of them. Looks like the 8 car may be coming to pit road now. He decided, all right, I've gotten past for the race lead. It's time to get those fresh Goodyears.
Yeah, I think if he did make the pass, he would have stayed out there, but due to the fact of the way that pass went down, might as well come in now and not try to push the issue, as Boyd Hogan can continue to stay out there on track and pulling away. But now we got to look to see, as when that 8 machine came into the pits, it was less than 3/10 when he entered the pits. How much time will the 8 car have compared to the drivers out here? As it looks like the 38 is the 93 is going to be coming into the pits, and as well as sounds like the colleague racing guys all planning on coming in here this time by.
Gordon from 3rd, Longacre from 4th, Bowers and White from 5th and 6th, all on pit lane here, closing in on a third of the way through this race.
And now here comes Cody Jordan as well. Right now, I feel like Boyd Hogan staying out is the best choice for him. I mean, he had the fastest car on the longer run, and the longer you stay out there, the more that Logan Helton's going to use up those tires and really burn them away. Then you'll have the faster tires. You're going to have to catch up to the 8 machine, but you've got a faster long-run car than him. You can easily catch up to the 8 later on in the run.
Here comes Vincent Arthur onto pit road from the 2nd position. Again, Boyd Hogan's got the luxury of trying this type of a strategy because he's not out there racing for any points. He's not out there racing for a championship in this series. He's just out here for a one-off, so he can run any strategy that he wants to, that he thinks is going to be a race-winning strategy. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, well, you haven't taken yourself out of a championship.
And right now, I'm looking at cars that just came into the pits and cars that pitted earlier. That marker car I'm looking at is Chris Whitaker in that 2 machine. He was the first car to pit out of the first of the cars in the top 10, and he has already gained about almost 11 seconds on the colleague racing guys that he was in front of when he first came into the pits. So Chris Whitaker, I think it's a great move on his part to pit early, but maybe it was just a little bit too early if he wanted to turn this into a two-stop race.
Well, he did not come out ahead of Logan Helton. Helton's about 2.5 seconds ahead of him. Helton, however, is going to have to deal with some traffic here. That's Jacob Shorba up ahead, Matt Knight to the inside. And we'll see if he's going to be able to gain any ground here once the 88 of Boyd Hogan comes pit lane, as Jacob Shorba almost down into the the passenger side door of that 8 machine off of turn 2.
Green flag pit stop still going underway, and Boyd Hogan pulling his 88 machine into the pits, only giving Helton 2 laps to work with to try to extend that lead, which should extend to about 2 seconds, 2 to 4 seconds out there.
Now, you mentioned about the 2-stop race and these drivers possibly targeting laps 50 and 100. Well, lap 50 just completed by Boyd Hogan. Actually, I think it was Tracy Powers that led that lap, but regardless, 50 laps completed by Boyd Hogan before coming down to the attention of his crew, so I think it's pretty clear he is on the 2-stop strategy. Logan Helton, I think, came to pit road at the completion of lap 46, so somewhere along the line, he may have to try and save 4 laps of fuel, if indeed 50 laps is the furthest these guys can go. We'll keep an eye on some of these other guys, like Tracy Powers, who's been able to stay out 51 laps, see if any of these guys can stretch it a little bit further.
Speaking of Tracy Powers, he's going to be pulling it into the pits, and now we got Brandon Andrews, who's still out there on track and not looking like he's going to come into the pits, and is now going to try to lead this lap. Not he'll lead it, but will be given the lead here, and try to at least lead a lap for the 24 machine before you got Logan Helton that should be gifted the lead here. And I'm looking at drivers that are out there. Boyd Hogan will be dropping back to 5th place once Brandon Andrews comes into the pits.
This is an important lap led, I believe, as well for Brandon Andrews, because a number of the guys that he's racing around for that playoff position have had some problems this evening. Kevin Roy is currently in the 12th position, but he hasn't been able to crack the top 10 yet tonight. You've also got Barry Stevens, who had that long extended stay on pit road, getting the damage repaired after he nosed it into the inside wall, coming in for a green flag pit stop. He's 9 laps down, and Roger Gregory out of this race. So a lot of opportunity for Brandon Andrews to capitalize, and that lap-led bonus point, very important, I think, for the 24 car.
Yeah, there's 3 cars that still need to pit. We've got our leader, Brandon Andrews, who sounds like he's going to be coming in here soon. You got Matt Knight as well as Helton Young. Those are your 3 drivers that have not pitted so far out there for the completion of lap 53 for that 24 machine, and just showing that you can be out there for quite a long time, but you are also going to be losing a lot of time by staying out there so long.
This is an exchange right here for 3rd place. Eventually it will be for 2nd. Vincent Arthur getting around Chris Whitaker in the 2. And it amazes me, Sam, how we go to different races and you expect to see a lot of consistency in terms of strategy, but usually that's not the case. Chris Whitaker, the last couple of mile-and-a-half tracks we were at, he was one of the drivers that decided to stay out the longest. However, we come here to Kansas, another mile-and-a-half track, and he's one of the first guys to come to pit road.
Yeah, I mean, Whitaker has changed it up throughout the whole entire season. There's been a lot of times where he's the first car that's multiple laps early, and just like we saw today, as that 2 machine is already getting sideways on entry, looking at cars that had late pits, as it looks like Brandon Andrews finally coming to the pits this time and drops back. It looks like Tracy Powers is going to be given a black flag on exit of speeding off of pit road. So you hate to see it for a car that was trying to stay out there, at least got the bonus point, but has to pull back in and take a penalty black flag.
And Tracy Powers would have cycled around to the 8th position after that pit stop. David Santini, 99 car, had a very exciting first lap, spinning through the infield grass off of 4, got the car righted, has had to work his way from the back to the front since the start of this race. He's up now to that 8th position after the 13 just hit pit road to serve that penalty. So, it's a long ways to go still, Sam. 95 laps. Have we seen the last of Santini getting up here and maybe battling it out with guys like Helton, Arthur, and Hogan for this win?
I think for the win, it might be out of his grasp. But, I mean, just looking at the lap times that are being placed by this 99 machine, that damage is hindering him just slightly. I think just based off the cars that he's around, a 4th place finish could be where this 99 machine is trying to aim, possibly a podium. But with that visual damage we're seeing, it is hurting the 99 just a tad. And it didn't look like he had enough time to get any repairs done because he didn't want to lose any time because he's running just as quick as, the colleague guys that have the better long run setup.
Boyd Hogan just got around Vincent Arthur, so moved the 88 up to second. He's now less than a second and a half behind Logan Helton as we're focused on the 19 car out of Joe Gibbs Racing. That is Tim Williams, and I don't know what's happened with the 19 car here tonight, but he's mired all the way back in the 18th position, 2 laps down. I see that right front damage, but I don't know if he's had maybe some more contact at some point, and that's really hindered the speed on this Supra.
He's had a lot of contact with that machine. That has hurt him a ton here, racing around here. And it's just bouncing off the wall, going into the infield grass. I believe that's what happened to the 19 machine, and it's just been a whirlwind of a day for himself.
We'll move back up to the front here because we may have a battle momentarily for the race lead. The closest battle right now, though, is for second place, as Boyd Hogan did get around Vincent Arthur, but he hasn't been able to completely gap him, having to deal with some traffic here. That's Barry Stevens in the 78, and also the 9 of Cody Jordan, who just got put a lap down. He is the first car -1. We've had our first round of green flag pit stops, and only 8 drivers remain on the lead lap.
Yeah, that is shocking to see, and right now it's looking like the colleague guys might be the ones that might be the last cars that stay on the lead lap for a bit here, as they're about 13 to 14 seconds between themselves, 5th to 7th place. Matt White, Carson Bauer, and Evan Longacre, those 3 drivers have just been in a line all race long, and they've been trying to do their best to stay with our leaders. On the long run, they've got great pace, but the starting out point is when things get difficult. It's 15 car, it makes contact with Barry Stevens, as well as others involved in that accident. No yellow being brought out. Now it does. Cody Jordan also involved.
Barry Stevens, he had damage to the front end of his race car, trying to bring the car to pit road. Well, that damage has exacerbated on the front of his Toyota Supra, and Cody Jordan, who, if a caution had come out, would have been the free pass car. Unfortunately for him, he is involved in this caution, and it comes out here just after we completed the cycle of pit stops, closing in on the halfway point here at Kansas.
It was just a little bit of contact made between Stevens and Jordan, and then it launched Jordan into Vincent Arthur, who was just a bystander on the inside trying to pass the 2 drivers, and it just took out the 2 machines up top.
Jordan was running 1 lap down. Arthur was on the lead lap. And Stevens was running 9 laps down. And there you saw the contact. The 9 cars able to stop before he hits that inside wall. Doesn't look like a whole lot of damage there, at least from first glance on the 15 of Vincent Arthur. We'll get another camera angle here. Obviously, the huge extent of the damage went to the 78 of Barry Stevens.
Yeah, Barry Stevens going to be losing that front end, but he already had so much front end damage that it really just needed a little bit of a tap before that bumper was going to be ripped apart. And now Barry Stevens' day that really hasn't been going well since the initial start of green flag pit stops continues to get worse for himself. Not looking like there's much redemption for that 78 machine unless he continues just to stay out there and hoping other cars have worse issues than he's been having.
Still a ways to go, so there is always that possibility that we could, especially here, getting these cars bunched up for the closest they'll be since the green flag came out to start this race. We could end up seeing a couple more cautions here as we enter into the second half of tonight's event, as everybody was on pit road. Logan Helton's going to win the battle off of pit lane. Boyd Hogan comes out second, and then the colleague racing cars got split up a little bit of a longer stay on pit road for Evan Longacre. He's going to lose touch with Matt White, who comes out third, and Carson Bowers, who comes out fourth. Longacre is going to come out in the 8th position.
Yeah, so, a little bit split up from everybody else. We'll see if those guys, here's the good thing, is I think the way that they're split up, they all might be in line with one another on, like, the inside or the outside. Let me, they'll be on the outside, so we'll see if that works out for anyone out there, but got to give credit to Logan Helton keeping the lead, and that caution helps him out a ton because he was going to lose the lead just because of the tire difference between the 8 and the 88.
Now, I believe either one of two things. I'm not sure which. Cody Jordan was in line to be the free pass car when a caution came out, but he was collected up in the wreck. So either there is no free pass car here for this caution, or I believe Brandon Andrews was the lap down machine behind the 9 when that caution came out. He would then be the free pass car. I'm not sure if we are having no lucky dog machine here for this yellow flag, or if it will end up being the 24 that gets back in the lead lap.
Believe it's going to the 24 machine. You know, you got a couple of cars up here that are trying to take a wave around. You've got Shorba, Powers, as well as Andrews setting up to get their lap back. Joshua Gordon with this caution allows him to come in and really repair that 93 machine that got that heavy damage there early in that first stint of racing in that green flag run, and he was running around 3rd before he made that heavy contact with the wall. Now able to get that repaired and might be able to run a little bit faster here once we get green again.
Interesting thing, I was looking at the point standings here, and of the 12 drivers right now in playoff spots, 11 of them have made more than 10 starts this season. One driver that actually has made only single-digit starts this year, that's Chris Parkman in the 86. Now, he did take a checkered flag earlier on this year, but he's only made 7 starts, so I'm not certain if there's a minimum start requirement to be playoff eligible, but if there is, and if the 86 does not meet it, that could maybe move that cutoff line down a bit. And if it does move it down, let's theoretically move it down, that would move Cody Jordan in, Barry Stevens 1 point back, and Brandon Andrews 3 points back if we were coming into this race the way the points were situated. So if that cut line moves down, that's going to put a lot more drivers into a pretty good dogfight for that final playoff position with 6 races remaining.
Yeah, Brandon Andrews really looking for a top 10, possibly a top 5 finish for that 24 machine. He's just got to continue pushing forward and hoping for the best right now, as the 2 other competitors he's been racing against for points wise, both having that heavy issue and damage that really is hurting both of them greatly. As Barry Stevens, he's gotten the repairs done, but 10 laps down back in 21st position. He's really hoping for a lot more accidents come out to hopefully get some of those laps back possibly, or just to see other machines wreck out.
It's going to be interesting to watch the 99 of David Santini now, because we were watching him cutting his way through the field as everything was spread out for the first 60 laps of this race. Now with everybody bunched back up, we'll see if he can get himself back up here in the conversation potentially for this victory, his 8th of the season.
And here's the scary thing though, he was moving up to about 10th place and 9th place with the heavy damage that he had. He had about 40 seconds of damage that he had to repair and get fixed. It's now fixed up. We'll see if this 99 machine can get back up front, because he looks quick with the damage that he had before. He might be even quicker now, and someone to watch out for to contend for that lead.
So there was no lucky dog for that caution. Brandon Andrews, Tracy Powers, and Jacob Shorba, they all took the wave around. That will leave us with 12 cars on the lead lap when we go back green out of 21 cars that are still running in this race. It's going to be Logan Helton and Boyd Hogan the front row, followed by Colleague Racing's Matt White and Carson Bowers. Vincent Arthur completes Chris Whitaker completes the top 5. Vincent Arthur, David Santini, Evan Longacre, Joshua Gordon, and Brandon Andrews. That's going to be the top 10 as we get ready to go back green. We're about 9 laps away from halfway here tonight at Kansas.
Logan Helton's going to be leading us back to the green flag, and they are green once again. Logan Helton with a fantastic restart. Everyone else behind him going to be figuring out where they want to place themselves. Boyd Hogan still staying on the outside, might be trying to put his nose under, but our top 4 all in line.
And we saw a lot of drivers very tempted to go to the inside line on the fresher tires. Here you go. Double wide for the lead. Almost was 3 wide formation there heading through turn 2.
Yeah, Matt White was following the colleague guys and just waiting for his moment. Thought about possibly going for the lead there. Now it's Boyd Hogan, who knows he's got the better long run car. Does he have the better short run machine though? As he's going to be staying right behind Logan Helton, thinking about making a pass, not able to do so. As you go further back to 5th place, you've got Carson Bauer, and also you've got Vincent Arthur side by side.
Logan Helton drove it deep into turn 1, tries to draw alongside of Logan Helton, pushes up off the corner, and Helton's going to hold the lead off of turn 2. So while Hogan had him from about turn 1 to the center of 1 and 2, that outside line gets the better run, and Hogan has to wind it up and try again. David Santini just moments ago worked his way around Chris Whitaker, moved him up to the 6th position, about to crack the top 5 for the first time since all the way back at lap 1.
There goes Hogan up into the lead. A great launch off of 4, putting himself in the lead. Here comes Helton trying to do a crossover on the inside. Can he get the momentum off of 2?
Not quite going to be the left rear quarter panel. He'll have to try again here, see if he can get some draft down the back straightaway. Side by side for 3rd, Vincent Arthur to the inside of Matt White. Very impressive run here tonight for the 11 machine as he almost gets pushed up into. He did get pushed up into. Fortunately, did not get the outside wall off of 4. That was close.
And continues to push forward, able to continue to keep that 3rd position and hold Arthur behind. And then you've got Bowers behind him, has a whole bunch of that 99 machine in his rear view bumper, and now getting underneath them as it's David Santini trying to get back up here and challenge for the lead.
Santini still has that right front damage as well. I'm actually surprised that that didn't get repaired under this last caution when everybody came to pit road, but to your point, he worked his way all the way up into the top 10 with that right front damage, so I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I mean, he got the most of the damage repaired as it can, but like visually, it's going to show that there is still some crinkled marks there. You can only do so much repairing, but that damage will still be holding on as Santini able to get up to 5th. It's a crossover move by Bowers.
Now Whitaker there as well, waiting to see which line's going to move. Santini will undoubtedly get the run off the corner here against Bowers. Bowers now going to try and tuck up in front of Chris Whitaker. Couldn't do it. The 2 is to his right rear.
And now you got Whitaker going to be trying to make the outside line work. Bowers is going to have to hold on the inside, and he's going to try to hold on, but Whitaker too strong on the outside, able to make the pass for 6th place.
And here comes his teammate Evan Longacre in the 8th position, that black Rapid Fire Pizza Chevrolet Camaro out of Colleague Racing. Longacre, we mentioned, had a bit of a slower stop there when these drivers came down pit road. He came to pit lane, I think it was around the 5th or 6th position, came out in 8th place, which is where he's running right now.
And you're going to start to see a lot of machines from about 10th on back, from 9th on back. They're going to be mingled between cars that are on the lead lap and cars that are 1 lap down, hoping for another caution to come out to possibly get their lap back. But leading the charge for if there's another caution, it's going to be the 7 machine of James Love, who's at that lucky dog position at the moment.
Those 3 drivers that took the wave around, Tracy Powers, Jacob Sharp, Brandon Andrews, they are praying for a caution right now. Those drivers are out there anywhere from 18 to 23 lap old tires. And in terms of lap times, they're almost running a full second slower than our race leader, Boyd Hogan.
With how much hard racing that Bowers was doing, it might have just wasted all of his tires, now having to back off and try to just save and hope that everyone else in front of him starts using up their stuff. But right now, that 16 machine is drifting away from his teammate of Longacre at the moment.
Boyd Hogan's been able to open up 0.7 of a second between himself and Logan Helton. This is the best battle on track right now. Inside the top 5 for the 3rd position, Matt White trying to hold off Vincent Arthur.
And Vincent Arthur's just been there this whole entire time and not really giving any space is going to be Matt White, who's just been clogging up the outside. And whenever you see Arthur try to make an inside move, it's just he doesn't have enough space to make any type of move here. It's a great defensive moves being made by the 11 machine.
Vincent Arthur right now, the highest running of the JD Motorsports machines, and we're going to see him, Boyd Hogan, James Love, and all the Soda Guys Cup Series drivers tomorrow, as it will be the makeup race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Of course, it was originally supposed to be run on July 4th, but wanted to give all of the drivers a chance to be with their families on that day, so it was rescheduled to tomorrow evening. Who's going to get to kiss the yard of bricks there? I mean, we had a great race with these drivers and this series over at the road course configuration a couple of weeks, but we get to go speedway racing at that very long 2.5 quad oval.
Racing the bricks. That was great as Helton goes off into the inside.
Gracious. And he is going to
save it. He just came over the radio, said that his game completely froze. So his screen froze. He had zero control of that 8 machine coming off the corner.
Yeah, I was trying to run through the things that could have gone wrong there. I didn't see any right side damage, but that car just shot to the left off of 4.
He's trying to now talk to make sure he didn't hit anything, and he did a fantastic job of not hitting anyone. He went through the grass. There could be a little bit of damage because of that, but not enough that should hurt the 8 machine. But he has drifted all the way back to 7th, now blinking a little bit, so there could be some internet issues as well as game issues for Logan Helton to continue forward, but a fantastic job there. Now he's scraping the wall coming into turn number 1.
Yeah, you know more about the iRacing damage model than I do. With that transition there, darting down like that, there's that banking on the front straightaway down to the apron, then obviously into the grass. Would that affect the splitter of this car model at all?
It will affect it just slightly, so it'll probably be about 2 seconds of damage repair, 2 to 3 seconds, or even less than that. So it shouldn't hurt this machine at all, and even if that damage does get repaired, it won't really hurt him too much. But that 8 machine, and we'll see if he's able to work his way up forward. But man, with him sliding off, going through the grass, it's going to take some time for Logan Helton to get back up front. But now we've seen throughout this whole entire race, all 3 BJ McLeod guys having some type of issue at some point.
Think about how fortunate he was to have it happen in that particular part of the track. If that had happened off turn 2, that car probably would have gone down to the inside wall. Fortunately, here at Kansas, they've got that long infield grass area, and he was able to keep it off of anything, was able to utilize that infield grass to bring it back up onto the track. He's still on the lead lap. He's in 7th place. That could have been the end of his race if he had had it in another portion of this racetrack.
Yeah, I was so confused. I was like, I'm watching White and Arthur's battle, and then I just see the 8 car drifting back into them and then just darts in. You knew there was some type of issue when he backed off the gas and was right there with the battle for 3rd. And then, obviously, with him drifting down and him announcing that there was a freeze on his screen that cost them all that time. Like we said, fortunate to still be racing and not have as much damage as he could, as now he's on the back bumper of Evan Longacre trying to get 6th place back.
And that moved Matt White up to the 2nd position now. Vincent Arthur up to 3rd. Matt White looking for his best finish of the season. Last time out, 2 weeks ago, when we were at New Hampshire, Matt White brought it home in the 6th position.
It looks like it's James James Love, I should say.
Junior Motorsports Chevrolet, the Brandt trademark Camaro, has looped it around on the back straightaway. And this is a big break for a number of drivers. Logan Helton, because he's going to be able to be bunched back up and try and make forward progress again. And Tracy Powers, Jacob Schorber, Brandon Andrews, the wave around strategy worked. They remain on the lead lap. This will put Cody Jordan back on the lead lap as the free pass machine.
Kevin Roy, I rewatched it. I've innocent bystander of the 7 of James Love, who is he just started losing the car on entry of 1 and was drifting that car around the whole entire corner and finally lost it off of 2. And the 4 machine of Kevin and Roy right there to take heavy damage.
And James Love had spent a good portion of this race in the free pass position. And this actually started all the way back in turn 3. We're going to watch this with the 7 car. This was a whole lap before. Watch as he tries to make the move on Cody Jordan. That was for the free pass spot, drifting it there through 3 and 4. The apron somehow allows him to save it. I mean, that should have been a wreck right there. And then as he'll come through 1 and 2 on this next lap, that's when the thing's finally going to come around on him. So he was fighting that car even a lap before this happened.
Yeah, I mean, he's got on 19, 17 laps of wear on those tires. And so they're already heated up. And any type of sliding movement is just going to heat them up more and more. And it's so difficult to try to lessen the heat in the tires. And once they just get too heated up, it's very hard to control these vehicles around that time.
So with this caution coming out, it is about 20 laps before drivers that were considering doing a 2-stop race here at the drop of the green flag for them to be able to make it the rest of the way on fuel. However, no surprise, everybody is on pit lane getting themselves some fresh Goodyears based on the fact that really they've only come down and, for some drivers, taken on a maximum of 2 sets.
And right now, Evan Longacre trying something different. 2 tires, stop for that 10 machine, put himself first right now with Boyd Hogan behind. And it's going to be Matt White in 3rd. So it's going to be the 10 machine trying something a little bit different. Like I said, they were only out there running for about 17 laps on those tires. So might as well try something different here. You're probably still going to have to do one more stop. So try something different here. It might win you the race.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw that Evan Longacre was one of the better cars on the long run. All the colleague racing cars seem to be really good the longer the run goes. And maybe getting out there in that clean air is all the 10 car needs to be able to continue to have forward progress. And we'll see if he's going to be able to gap himself back to Boyd Hogan, who has also proved to be good on the long run. So we'll get an idea of 2 tires versus 4 tires with 2 drivers that are very good the longer the run goes on.
And I'm trying to get a relook, and Barry Stevens' day looks like it is over. As back on lap 59, we'll leave his engine right at the completion of 59 going into 60. Engine popped for the 78 in the pits, trying to get that fixed up, but looking like 78 days is over for Barry Stevens.
That is the first DNF for the 78 since I can't remember when. It seems like every time we talked about him, he was up inside of the top 10 finishing results, but Kansas, a hard luck race for him tonight. As looks like he will officially finish in 21st place this evening, joining Roger Gregory, Matthew Beeman, and Zachary Smith in the garage area. We're waiting here for the flagman and the pace car to tell us that we're getting ready to go back green. Looks like we've got at least another lap of pacing here before we get the 1 to green signal. So as Evan Longacre paces the field here tonight at Kansas Speedway, preparing us to go back green with less than 70 laps to go, we're going to step aside for a commercial break. You won't miss anything here under pacing. We'll go side by side and be back here for the green flag in just a moment. Welcome you back here to Kansas Speedway. Evan Longacre is your leader here tonight in the 20th race of the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. He's on 2 tires, however. Everybody else is on 4, as Boyd Hogan will line up second. Vincent Arthur, Matt White, Chris Whitaker, your top 5. Then it's David Santini, Joshua Gordon, Logan Helton, Jacob Shorba, and Tracy Powers, your top 10, as we get ready to go back green, closing on 60 laps to go here tonight, Sam.
Longacre is going to be taking the green, did not wheel spin, got a fantastic start from what I was expecting with him being on 2 tires. The 10 machine with at least a car length gap between himself and Boyd Hogan, but how long will that last? Because with 2 tires, that 10 machine is going to be struggling on the outside compared to everyone else on the 4 fresh.
Yeah, Boyd Hogan going to easily make the pass for the lead. So now the driver that really has to worry is Evan Longacre, because these drivers behind him with the fresher tires are going to have 3 to 4 miles per hour up on him. He's going to have to figure out somewhere to go so he doesn't get run over.
Well, now you look at 5th and 6th. You've got David Santini and Logan Helton, who we're not used to seeing behind the top 5, and right now trying to make a charge to get back up front, as both those machines have had some pretty interesting days so far today.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, David Santini went through the infield grass spinning on lap 1. Logan Helton, about 20 laps ago, had his game freeze and he went into the infield grass off of turn 4 as well, but both have been able to recover up here inside of the top 10, trying to fight their way back to the front as Helton led quite a number of laps here this evening. Santini was battling for the lead at the time he had his issue back on the first lap.
Right now, Helton is trying to figure out how to get on the outside, because with him stuck on the inside, you're not used to seeing that, but he's kind of getting freight trained by everyone else that's on the high side with those fresher tires, able to just get by the 8 car. But up front, Santini up to 4th and on the back trail of this lead pack.
Joshua Gordon had to try and see if he could get to the inside of Evan Longacre, and Longacre's not going to get out of the way. Oh, this is going to stack him up from 5th place on back. Chris Whitaker was almost into the back of Gordon, who was almost into the back of Longacre, and look at this. You got about 7 cars all separated by less than 0.2 of a second.
It's Jacob Shorba up in 8th place, now trying to move up forward. Where did he come from? We were just talking about him possibly having a bad day back in the early parts of this race. Now moving up to 7th, possibly 6th, with Longacre holding up the high side.
Well, he's had an adventurous day. You mentioned he started this race from pit road. He got trapped a lap down, took the wave around, got the caution to remain on the lead lap, and now he's about to crack the top 5 if he can get up here to the 2 of Chris Whitaker, as he literally crossed over the nose of Joshua Gordon there in the front straightaway.
Yeah, Gordon was probably not impressed, but at the same time a little bit by the fact that there wasn't a caution there, because I thought for sure Shorba coming up that way was going to wreck himself and possibly the rest of the field behind him with that type of a move, but they continue moving forward, all getting by Longacre so far. But Longacre in that 10 machine dropped all the way back from the lead back to 11th, and just going to lose even more positions just because of the tire compounds that he's on compared to everyone else.
Shorba's going to clear and hold 6th. Joshua Gordon back to 7th, and then you got a 3-way fight for 8th. Logan Helton has it, and they're double wide behind him. Tracy Powers to the inside of Carson Bowers. How about that? Powers and Bowers side by side into one.
And I got to give credit to Powers. He went a lap down because he got a black flag on that green flag pit stop about now 30 laps ago. So that 13 machine able to continue pushing forward, now on the lead lap up here in the top 10.
A little bit further up towards the front, battle for 2nd. Matt White and Vincent Arthur. We've seen this show before, except last time we saw it was on the last run, and it was for 3rd place at the time. Now it's for the runner-up spot, and it may be a 3-man dance, because here comes the 99 of David Santini into the picture as well.
Santini is trying to get up on them, but just not able to. And yeah, Matt White and Vincent Arthur, they've been right nose to tail for so long now that it's just going to be weird if they ever get split up, because they've just been doing this 2-car tango for about 30 to 40 laps now, and they just have not been able to break away from one another, yet they are still staying about 3/10 away from our leader, Boyd Hogan, which is a great job on their part. But it's more so once they're about 15 laps to 20 laps into a run, that's when Boyd starts to pull away from everyone else.
Jacob Shorba right now the 2nd highest running of the junior motorsports cars. The highest running is leading this race in Boyd Hogan, but Boyd has not been able to really get away. It's only 0.3 of a second back to this battle for 2nd place.
And also back battling around 6th place, you've got Logan Helton finally getting his bearings and moving that 8 machine forward instead of losing positions, as he's trying to get by Jacob Shorba for that 6th place position. And right in front of them, they've got Chris Whitaker, who's just sitting there, a sitting duck at the moment.
Should mention that the driver that got the free pass there under that caution was the 9 of Cody Jordan. We mentioned his situation coming into the playoff points here tonight is, wow, they really almost ran each other over off of 2 there with Whitaker, Shorba, and the 8 of Logan Helton. But right now, Cody Jordan in the 12th position. He is the next to last car on the lead lap, as right now Evan Longacre has fallen all the way back to last car on the lead lap. But boy, you want to see where a caution might come out. It might be right here in this battle for the 5th position.
And Helton wants to get going, but that car is wiggling off of Ford. Hasn't stopped until they entered the corner. Finally able to start moving forward, but his car drifts up, losing that momentum, and Shorba now trying to pull away.
And Whitaker gets loose off the corner, and here comes Tracy Powers. So now 4 cars up here, 5th back through 8th.
And Powers able to get below Whitaker, and it just looks like Whitaker's good for the first about 10 laps or so, and then his car just loses the pace and starts to drift back. Great short run for the 2 machine, but the longer run is where he starts to lose that pace. And I think that's why we were seeing him be the first car on pit road, is because he felt like he was stronger on those shorter runs where he could gain him up the most time.
Thing we have to remember here as all this battling inside the top 10 is taking place, these drivers, they're going to have to come to pit road at least one more time before all is said and done. We went back green with about, I think it was 64 laps to go. And these drivers, the furthest we saw them stretch it when they had the cycle of green flag pit stops was 52 laps.
Yeah, they are coming right now. If they wanted to start that pit window, it is this lap. Come in this time, and the drivers should be able to make it to the end. But we know that a lot of drivers are probably thinking about splitting it down the halfway marker, so that would put drivers around the lap 115 to 110 window. So these drivers still have a little bit of time that they'll be thinking about going for, probably another 15 laps or so until we start seeing drivers come into the pits for their final pit stop. But the window is open if they want to come down now.
Logan Helton swings around Jacob Shorba, so move him up into the top 5 and 5th. Tracy Powers now to the inside of Shorba for 6th place, and I don't really think you're going to see anybody pull a really early short pit strategy, just based on the fact that when we had that first round of green flag pit stops, we had, 10, 11 cars on the lead lap afterwards. So, almost guaranteed to lose a lap here under green flag conditions. You don't want to be trapped a lap down, have a late race caution come out, and then have to rely on a waiver round to get back in the lead lap, losing all that track position you gained all up to this point.
Yeah, speaking of cars that are a lap down, we've got 2 cars battling out for that lucky dog position. That's going to be James Love and Kyle Payne. And James Love just hit the wall off of 4 and now is going through the infield grass at the moment, trying to get forward, and is going to lose that lucky dog position to Kyle Payne.
He was the one that brought out the caution, the second caution, our last yellow flag of the day so far. And taking the scenic route there down the front straightaway is the 21 of Payne you mentioned there out of Wood Brothers Racing, now moves into that free pass position. Those are the only 2 cars that are 1 lap down as well. The only 2 cars eligible for the lucky dog should we have a caution in these final 50 laps.
I went back for that James Love spin out that he just had, and he drifted it again through 3 and 4 and then almost lost it, used the outside wall to save himself, and then it launched him into the infield grass. So we almost had another caution brought up from James Love, but that 7 machine still chugging along, but he is 7 seconds away from that lucky dog position.
I'm trying to remember back when we showed the replay of his spin off of turn 2 off the nose of Kevin Roy. I don't remember if he had that rear end damage prior to that or if that rear end damage was a result of the contact between him and the 4, but I would have to think, with the fact that these drivers have been talking about that they're battling loose conditions from the start of this race till we get to green flag pit stops or even after a caution or anything like that, that rear spoiler, that rear end damage is going to affect that spoiler, maybe take it out of commission, and you've got nothing to be able to hold the rear end of the car down to the racetrack when you go into the corner.
Yeah, he's lost a lot of downforce help with the loss of that back end, and that damage did come from the Kevin Roy incident. As he drifts up a little bit there for James Love, that slows down Vincent Arthur, who once was on the back bumper of Matt White, now further back, almost a half second back from the 11 machine.
And this is kind of dangerous with the fact now lead lap cars are running around that 7 machine as, you can clearly see he is nowhere near stable, especially through the center.
Kind of a hazard at the moment. You got to be careful around the 7 machine right now. And speaking of Kevin Roy, he has parked that car and put it into the pits. Right now, we've got 19 cars on track running around.
Wow, that is huge, because if you look at the drivers right now that are either out of the race or in the case of Barry Stevens, still sitting on pit road, but effectively out of this race, the drivers that came into this one, as I mentioned at the top of the program, in striking distance to mathematically move into a playoff spot, Kevin Roy is out of the race. Barry Stevens is out of the race. Brandon Andrews has had his share of troubles today, but he's still on the lead lap in 11th, and Cody Jordan's in 13th. So right now, none of those 4 drivers we highlighted coming into this race are up inside of the top 10.
No, they're not in the top 10, and just it's been a struggle for a lot of these machines. We're used to seeing some of these cars up here that had some bad days, looking a lot more consistent. But, just Kansas has been such a wild card race with the drop of the green lap 1 incident, and then just carried on from there with cars just being loose off the corner, using the wall as a barrier just to get around the track. So much damage and carnage for these machines out here.
Well, 4 weeks ago at the Indy Road Course, we saw one-off driver Brendan Burcroft go to victory lane. The week after, we saw TJ Crampton take the checkers at Kentucky, another one-off driver. New Hampshire was won by a regular season driver in Joshua Gordon, but it looks like we may be going 3 for 4 unless something drastic happens here in these final 45 laps of a one-off driver or a fill-in driver going to victory lane here in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, which says to me...
Santini and Helton both in the pits.
And this is interesting strategy, but this says to me that it's going to be put even more pressure on those drivers that are trying to point their way into the playoffs.
I'm re-looking, and I believe that based on Santini and where he was running and the lap times that are being put down, Santini could be, with the marker that I set, that's 8 laps away from here. Santini could get the lead if we continue to stay green and this pit cycle goes all the way to the end.
We talked about the fact that Boyd, Hogan, Vincent Arthur, these guys racing the Soda Guys Cup Series, they're not out here for points. They're out here to try and win. Well, Logan Helton's kind of in that same situation as well. He's got 7 victories this season. He is absolutely locked into the playoffs, so he has the luxury of trying something different as well as far as strategy and see if he can get a league-leading 8th trip to victory lane.
And right now, looking like Santini and Helton after that pit stop, it's going to be a 4-second difference because it looked like Santini got only right sides, he only got left sides done, I should say. Right sides, excuse me. Only got 2 tires and then went back out there. So 99 machine trying a different strategy compared to everyone else completely with just topping it off with fuel and only taking right side tires.
The exchange for 5th, Carson Bowers getting around Joshua Gordon. I find that really interesting too because we already had a guinea pig, if you will, with the 2-tire strategy of Evan Longacre back on this last restart, and he dropped like a rock from the lead all the way back to last car on the lead lap. So I'm really surprised that Santini, especially with the fact of where he was running, did not go with the 4 tires and went with the 2-tire strategy instead.
Yeah, it's a different strategy completely because that last lap was not a good hot lap coming out of the pits. He was running almost a second slower than what Helton is, and Helton, who at the point was about 4.5 seconds back, now only 2.5 seconds and closing quick on the 99 machine.
Now, Logan Helton started this race. I believe it was from the 3rd position, as now we got another car on pit road. That's the 10 of Evan Longacre coming to pit lane. And remember, he was a driver that did the 2-tire strategy, so not surprised that he's one of the first guys that we're seeing on pit lane here wanting to get 4 tires on that Chevrolet Camaro.
As the 11 and the 13 into the pits is also the 16 car. So a lot of machines coming in and feeling like, okay, well, if the BJ McLeod cars are coming in, we have to come in very quick so that they don't gain as much time as they think they're going to gain.
A couple of lap machines were in as well. The 19 of Tim Williams and the 7 of James Love pitting this time. And here comes the 15 of Vincent Arthur.
Arthur's going to be pulling in, and now the question is, when will Boyd Hogan pull his car into the pits? Will he go for that marker of 115, or will he come in earlier than that? I know we know for a fact that he can go further than everyone else, but he could lose so much time that there won't be enough time for this 88 machine to gain back up on everything that he has lost.
Jacob Shorba was on pit road as well in the 1 car.
Whitaker's in.
Yep, Whitaker is now in, so now the drivers were waiting on to complete this cycle of pit stops, if you will, for the lead lap machines are Hogan, Gordon, Andrews, and Jordan. Hogan is out there just trying to win. Gordon's already locked into the playoffs. Andrews and Jordan, they're trying to battle amongst themselves for that final potential playoff position.
Looking at cars right now that are trying their best to hold out there. And it looked like Helton less than a second away from getting up to Santini, and if he makes this pass on the 99 machine, Helton would be gifted the lead with pit cycles going through, and if we go green for the rest of the way.
His lead lap car, Joshua Gordon, in the 2nd position that Helton's getting around. Next car would be for position. And there's Matt White in the 11 car as well. He's running very similar lap times to Logan Helton. Actually, he was a little bit better that last lap. So could this be the battle for the lead right now between the 11 and the 8?
These 3 machines that are all clustered up right here of David Santini, Logan Helton, and Matt White, they are challenging to see who will become the leader. But right now, it's Matt Knight that's holding up these guys, as Helton got picked off right there. But, right now, Matt White has the 4-lap fresher tires, which are huge here at Kansas, and could be an easy pass here on the BJ McLeod machines.
Alton is stuck behind his teammate Santini, who's on those 2 tires, and look at the 11. Oh, he got to the throttle nicely through the center of the corner. 2 for the price of 1. That right there could be the pass for the win, depending on what happens here in these final 35 laps.
Oh, there's Arthur. He's another machine there that's trying to get back up there. And this is a 4-car battle to see who's going to be up there as Boyd Hogan continues to stay out. This is great action for him to see. Use up your tires. Make it so you don't actually have anything left. So Boyd Hogan can just run you all down and pass you easily on the later stages of this race.
You saw how Santini on those 2 tires was not able to hold off White, Helton, or Arthur. He now drifts back to the 8th position, which could cycle him out maybe anywhere from maybe the 7th position, 6th position when everything cycles around when these other drivers come to pit road. Vincent Arthur now going to get around Logan Helton, so all of a sudden that 8 car is starting to drift back a bit now.
Yeah, I mean, he's on the older tires, and the caution's out.
Jeffrey Meyer in the 38, I believe. No. Longacre, the 10 car, is slow on the apron.
I don't think it was Longacre. I think it was someone else, possibly. Oh, it was Cody Jordan that hit the wall and got into Longacre.
Caution's going to come out. And there were only 4 cars on the lead lap at the time. Matt White, we talked about that pass being important possibly for the lead. That actually was for the free pass position. So Matt White will be the lucky dog under this caution, and everybody else who was on pit road under this green flag run are all going to have to take the wave around.
I was just about to state that Boyd Hogan and the rest of these drivers, they can stay out there for quite a long time and wait for a caution, and that's what came out, and it just throws a wild card for all these machines because Cody Jordan, he was part of that accident, but I believe he'll still be on the lead lap. Didn't get as much damage as we thought he was going to get. Brandon Andrews right now, 2nd. He'll be pulling in the pits, getting some repairs and some new tires out there. So great action for the drivers that decided to stay out.
And we could very well have not had a yellow flag come out there had the 10 car not spun back up onto the racing surface, because we've seen already here today when we had Jeffrey Meyer and David Santini spin down to the infield grass that a caution did not come out. So this yellow flag certainly throws a monkey wrench into a lot of driver strategy. And just to point out how important it was the fact that Matt White gets the free pass rather than the wave around. When you get the lucky dog, you get to start up there with the other drivers that are on the lead lap. If you take the wave around, you have to start behind lap down machines, anybody that is ahead of you after you get around the pace cars. So that's a lot of track position that you lose out on being a wave around car as opposed to a lead lap machine or a lucky dog car.
Well, also the bigger thing is that as a lucky dog, you can come into the pits and get fresher tires. If you're a wave around car, you're stuck with those tires that you just came in to get.
Joshua Gordon is going to be the race leader right now in the 93, and now looks like he may be indicating he's going to come to pit lane. I don't think Joshua has led a lap here today. He's already locked into the playoffs, so I don't think there's any bonus points for leading the lap to carry over into the playoff grid, but not sure if he is going to pit here or not. Evan Longacre is going to pit. Yep, Gordon's coming in. Matt White is coming in the 11 car. As mentioned, he was the free pass machine, so he can pit with the lead lap cars.
So Joshua Gordon might be one of the luckiest machines I've seen, because he actually came into the pits right when the caution hit. That's why he was able to stay on the green flag, and he stayed out there for another lap to lead it. But Joshua Gordon, extremely lucky, because he came into the pits and they wrecked off of 4 right when he entered. So, and he did not go a lap down. That 93 machine, it will stay on the lead lap, which a lot of machines are going to be on the lead lap, but only our top 5 are going to have fresh tires.
The drivers that are going to take the wave around are going to be, looks like Vincent Arthur, Tracy Powers, Carson Bowers, Jacob Shorba, and Chris Whitaker. Here's an interesting call. Logan Helton, David Santini, they could have taken the wave around, but they decided to come to pit road, so they will stay -1 when we go get back green with less than 30 to go.
I think just because of how many cars are going to be taking the wave around and the difference in tires, it's probably better, just because you know that there's a chance with the tire differentials between everyone there's a chance of another caution going up in flames. Also, with us being less than 50 laps, you know that drivers are going to be racing way harder than they were previously. So you know that there's going to be a lot of aggression going out there. As also, Cody Jordan was just given an EOL for being a part of that last accident.
So Cody Jordan, I believe this actually puts him tail end of the field, this EOL does, rather than him lining up there on what would be the inside of row 3. This would put him all the way to the back. I don't know if that would put him behind drivers that are going to be taking the wave around or not, as, it's interesting if we think back to a couple of weeks ago when we saw Joshua Gordon go to victory lane at New Hampshire. The big story that we had with that 93 car was the fact he was down there near the cut line. When he went to victory lane, he's worry-free. No cut line having to worry about now. He's locked into the playoffs. I'm looking at this 24 of Brandon Andrews. All night long we've been talking about him being behind the cut line, trying to point his way into the playoffs. Could lightning strike twice with a driver that needs a win to get himself into the playoffs, that right now is trying to get himself above the cutoff line, being able to head into the next 6 races of the regular season worry-free, knowing he is going to be battling in the playoffs for the championship?
Honestly, just looking at some of the drivers that are right now on the lead lap with fresh tires and can compete with Boyd Hogan, I think Matt White's the only driver that's there, but he's not going to be starting up front with these machines. He actually has to start all the way in the back, further back, because of him being the lucky dog position. So it's going to be interesting for sure for these guys up front. But if we don't have another caution, honestly, it's looking like Boyd Hogan has this thing in the bag, because there's just not enough competition that was able to stick with him and does in a car that doesn't have damage that is around him right now to challenge that 88 machine.
All drivers on track right now can make it the rest of the way on fuel, including wave around drivers like Tracy Powers, Carson Bowers, Tim Williams, James Love. They all came to pit road about 10 laps ago. That was within the fuel window to be able to make it the rest of the way. So fuel is not a concern. Tires may be a bit of a concern, especially for those wave around drivers. And of course, keeping your car in one piece until that final lap, I think, is going to be top of the list for these drivers as we get ready to go back green with what looks like it's going to be 28 laps to go at Kansas.
28 laps to go, and you know that we've talked about the tire limits. That is something to watch out for a lot of these machines, because we've had a lot of cars coming in anywhere from 4 to 5, maybe even 6 times in the pits. So if we have another caution, who will have sets at the end of the race? The pace car pulls up. It's going to be Boyd Hogan leading the way on the high side. Green flag back in the air.
And you can see right there the 8 of Logan Helton in that row on the outside of row 2. He's the first car 1 lap down, but because of all the lucky dog and wave around cars, he gets to start this close to the front of the field.
And honestly, he's going to be one of the faster cars to watch out for, as Gordon's going to throw his machine into the high side. Santini drops it low. Almost 3 wide action as White is going to be trying to figure out how to get in front of these guys. But it's all the action also behind them, as you got a lot of machines that are 1 lap down. Cars with fresh tires and cars with old tires, that they are going to be scattered all over the place as Tim Williams gets into Knight and puts him in the wall. And a lot of these machines with older tires, it is scattering in a hornet's nest back here.
You've got lead lap cars on anywhere from 11 to 13 lap old tires, and then you got lap down machines that are out there on fresh tires, and everybody's trying to find their way through without running each other over as up towards the front. The best battle right now is going on for that 3rd position. Well, actually, it's for the 2nd spot between the 24, the 93, and the 11. Andrews, Gordon, and White, with the lap car of Santini stuck in the middle of it.
The car that's loving all this action is going to be Boyd Hogan, for right now has a 1.2 second lead on all the machines right now, and it's just growing. As you're seeing the battle for second, it is so hot and heavy with Santini below, and all 3 machines on the high side, they're all in the lead lap. It's Santini, who's 1 lap down, trying to get up to Boyd Hogan and possibly to put himself on the lead lap, but he's just not running fast enough where he's stuck. He's still 1 lap down. He's not even the first car 1 lap down. That's his teammate of Helton, who's in front of him between our 1st and 2nd place drivers.
Yeah, that's the car he has to worry about right now, is Helton, to get up there and get himself at least into a free pass position. But with the fact he is trapped on that inside line with lead lap cars to his outside, he's going to get hooked off the nose of Matt White. He saves it as Gordon is into his back bumper. The both of them rode the wall through turn 1. A lot of front end damage on the 93 as Santini tried to fit into a hole that wasn't there. And
they're still all clustered up, and Santini looked like he didn't really get that much. White got a little bit of right side damage and front end damage. They'll be able to continue pushing forward. Right now, 6 trying to get by Carson Bauer, but really a hard damage for Gordon, who really did get the worst of that.
The whole front end around the grill area is gone on that machine, and now the top 3 has changed the landscape as you've got Brandon Andrews in second. Tracy Powers has now moved up to third, and he's got Vincent Arthur hounding him for that spot inside the podium.
And Vincent Arthur right now looking very good right now. We know that that 15 machine is quick, and we'll drop it under the 13 of Powers and easily make the pass for third. Thought maybe they're still side by side coming across the line.
Looks like maybe Powers is going to edge ahead just enough there going into turn 1. Vincent Arthur trying to find some way to get more speed off the corner so he can clear this 13 car, who's right now in the preferred line. Up ahead of them, though, over almost 2 seconds is where we find Brandon Andrews, and he's currently running more than 3 seconds behind Boyd Hogan. So right now, Junior Motorsports 1-2 here at Kansas as we're closing in on 20 laps to go.
And Powers is doing a fantastic job holding off Arthur, and you know Arthur wants to get going, but just can't. Also, other action that's going on is Whitaker's got a lot of cars around him that are lap machines, as he's getting kind of frustrated right now with all the lap cars around him pressuring him so much.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they got that engine fixed or if they maybe got a new one or something. Barry Stevens back out there on the track, and a big reason for that is because with Kevin Roy out of this race, he is currently 17 laps ahead of Barry Stevens. Stevens has enough laps here. If he gets to the conclusion of this race, he can at least move up another spot in the running order and finish in the top 20.
Yeah, and Barry Stevens right now, his pace isn't that bad. He's running pretty similar lap times to the cars that are around 13th on back. So cars that have been having issues but are continuing to run forward, as I just saw Jeffrey Meyer get stuck into the outside wall.
Meyer has struggled all night long after starting this race from the pole, and everything really culminated downhill after coming to the completion of the first lap when he and David Santini got together, and it's just not been a good night for that driver out of RSS Racing. We drop a little bit further back behind him, and that's where you find Cody Jordan in the 9 car. He's had a bit of adventures here tonight, but he has that 9 in the 9th position, and I'm looking at drivers like himself, Barry Stevens, who's soldiering on out here, Brandon Andrews. I mean, that cutoff line, that battle for that final playoff spot heading into these final 6 races looks like it is going to continue to be a good one.
Oh no, James Love's engine just went out on him coming off of turn number 2. The 7 machine drifts it into the apron, so no caution going to be thrown, but that looks like it's the end of the day for the 7 machine.
And the good news, at least for James Love, if this is good news, is he cannot finish this race any worse than 19th place. Barry Stevens is not in close enough striking distance to be able to pick up that spot before the conclusion of this race. Best battle right now, it's going on between the Colleague Racing cars. That's for 5th place, Matt White and Carson Bowers.
And Joshua Gordon just parked it. The 93 machine is done for the day after that late accident. And you knew he was very frustrated with the way that went down due to the fact that he was running up front and looked like he was going to get a fantastic finish. Luckily, he's got the win, so he's locked into the playoffs, but not the day that he wanted to have here at Kansas.
I'm absolutely shocked that wreck did not bring out a caution either. The fact that Santini was able to broadside the outside wall in turn 1 after going off the nose of Matt White and then off the nose of Joshua Gordon, that really shocked me that we did not see a caution flag fly for that. And you can clearly see the damage on the left side, and I think there's a little bit of damage on the right front as well of the leaf filter Camaro of Matt White. That's obviously affecting him right now because we saw how that car was flying. Ooh, Carson Bowers ahead of him gets the wall going through 1 and 2, but you can definitely see that the speed that number 11 had early on has kind of faded off now with the damage he sustained.
Yeah, it's almost completely gone. And other battles that are going on, I mean, Brandon Andrews was doing a great job holding off everyone, but it looked like he was using up so much tires trying to catch up to Boyd Hogan, who just started to pull away, that Tracy Powers could be trying to put himself into 2nd place right now in that 13 machine.
MBM Motorsports has brought some really good cars here to the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series the last couple of weeks. We already mentioned the dominating performance by TJ Crampton back at Kentucky. Now, right now, they've got their entry of Tracy Powers up in 3rd, looking for that 2nd position. And With Brandon Andrews, I mean, regardless of where he finishes this race, up if he finishes up inside the top 5, this is a well-needed run for a driver that came in 36 points behind the cutoff line, and a lot of his competition had issues here tonight, so Andrews could find himself heading into next week in a very favorable position. And I mean, next week, let's talk about that. Next week, these drivers were going back road course racing at Road America, so all these guys that enjoy the 1.5 mile speedways, the 2 mile speedways, they're probably looking at that with the goal of just try and finish that race out.
Yeah, and I think the BJ McLeod guys are kind of excited for it because they've been doing decently well at road courses, and I expect them to do just as well again at Road America. And, just based on how this race went for all the BJ McLeod guys, they really need a bounce back race. I know they've been dominating all season long, but just this race alone, every single one of them have had some type of issue and continue to have so, as our second through fourth going to be passing by Logan Helton, who just drifts back, letting them go by.
Yeah, the very smart move there, very courteous move by Logan Helton, who right now is in a free pass position should the caution come out. The driver he's battling right now is his teammate Santini, who's almost 4 seconds back, so moves out of the way and lets these three duke it out for that runner-up position as, wow, 13 of Powers looked awfully loose going into turn 1, and now Andrews looks loose coming off of turn 2, so maybe Vincent Arthur's the only guy that's comfortable with his car underneath him right at the moment.
I mean, the longer this run goes, the more they're going to feel more uncomfortable. And the craziest thing about this battle for second that's going on is that Brandon Andrews, he had a lot of damage going on with that machine, but it's Tracy Powers and Vincent Arthur, they're on older tires, but just due to the fact that they don't have as much damage on their machines, that's why they're able to keep up and really run down this 24 machine and pass them right now.
Powers tries to clear. Andrews is still there, and Andrews gonna get put in the wall. Vincent Arthur forces the issue there, and now Andrews, after that brush off of turn 2, he's going to have to give up second and third place, which is now under contest again. Oh! Yikes, there was contact there through 3 and 4, but they keep it straight.
No, Tracy was on the radio just being like, please no, let's not wreck this. And then you've got James Love right under him, pushing him up closer and closer to the wall. So not over yet. But, man, these guys are running close to the wall, and even closer action is now Logan Helton back into the action here, but he is 1 lap down.
Now, Logan Helton let these guys by, but because of the slipping and sliding and loss of momentum they had, he comes back up and makes it a 4-car field, even though he is a lap-down machine.
Yeah, these guys are they're racing so hard, and you might as well, you're coming to 10 laps, coming to 10 laps to go, so might as well throw everything that you can as Vincent Arthur now starts to pull away. Tracy Powers, man, what a fantastic run and a bounce back for that 13 machine who got a black flag early in that first green flag pit stop, and now is bounced back to 3rd place at the moment, looking to get that podium finish.
It mentioned the loss of momentum with those drivers slipping and sliding around. How much momentum did they lose? Well, when the battling started, they were about 7.5 seconds behind Boyd Hogan. They just lost 2 seconds in that 3-way battle. Hogan now nearly 10-second gap back to the 2nd place car, Vincent Arthur.
It's just not even fair how quick Boyd Hogan is on these longer runs. And, we're used to seeing it on Saturdays, but, every once in a while, I guess you got to come down here and show these rapid-fire national guys how it's done.
And again, Kansas is not going to be the next race for these Soda Guys Cup Series drivers. They're going to Indianapolis tomorrow evening, but Kansas is on their schedule during the playoffs. So Boyd Hogan, Vincent Arthur, some of these guys up here that are Soda Guys Cup Series regulars might be putting a little bit of mental notes of something to store away when we eventually get to that playoff race. I believe it is playoff race number 5 on the season, the middle race of round 2 that Kansas appears on the Soda Guys Cup Series schedule.
Well, it's looking like Brandon Andrews might have used up all of his stuff as he continues to drop back, and he's got a couple of machines that are hungry to gain even more positions, as you've got Carson Bowers and Matt White just waiting to get by this 24 machine, who is starting to blink a little bit. So got to be careful around blinking machines, but everywhere on track, a lot of great action everywhere. I mean, you've got the battle for 7th place right now. Chris Whitaker being hounded down by the one machine of Jacob Shorba, and Shorba's had an eventful day, able to bounce back to 8th place at the moment.
Yeah, a lot of drivers have been able to have pretty nice comeback runs from early hardship. Shorba, who had to start this race from pit road. You've got Cody Jordan back there in ninth, who was involved in I think he's been involved in 2 cautions here today, or at least 2 incidents. David Santini, I know he's going to finish this race a lap down. Logan Helton right now looks like he'll finish a lap down in 10th and 11th respectively. But, just the fact of prior to them going a lap down, the speed we saw them show after we had Helton through the infield grass, Santini spinning the infield grass on lap 1. Still, you got to consider that some comeback runs for them, despite what their finishing result will show. And another guy that's actually done a great job with coming back as well, it's not the finish he's wanting, but it's a lot better than what he would have gotten, is the 19 of Tim Williams. He's 2 laps down, but he's up to 13th place, and the last time we checked in on him, he was running back in the 21st position.
Yeah, I mean, 21st for him, and we talk about the fact that the BJ McLeod guys aren't having the run that they wanted, but Santini was all the way back to 21st as well. I mean, I take that back. He was only back in 23rd, and now is up to 11th place, at one point 5th place. And so they're trying their best to just continue pushing forward. But man, it's with how dominant we've been seeing the BJ McLeod guys, it's kind of hard to say, wow, what a good rebound from where you guys were earlier in the race.
Yeah, another thing, too, that we talk to a lot of drivers in other leagues, other series, when we get down to the home stretch and start beginning the playoffs, they say the one thing they want when they know they're already locked into battling for that championship, they want good momentum going into the playoffs. It's so important, and a little bit of a hiccup along the way here for a lot of the guys that we already know are going to be competing for that championship. Helton, Santini, got Joshua Gordon out of this race, Barry Stevens with a lot of issues here today, so Kansas has certainly proved to be a little bit of a speed bump for a lot of the guys that we're expecting are going to be battling for the championship here later on this year.
Yeah, and a lot of the drivers that are maybe hoping to get a win and lock themselves in, it's kind of getting more and more difficult with all these guys that are coming in and doing 1 races during the season just to try out the National Series. And Boyd Hogan crossing the line there, making it 2 laps to go here in Kansas. And it has just been a dominating show ever since the 88 machine got into the lead.
Definitely has. He's had to fight for that race lead here from the beginning to around maybe the second third of this race. He's had challenges from Logan Helton. He had a challenge from Matt White not too long before that last caution came out. But then when a lot of his competition found some issues, it was been smooth sailing for Boyd Hogan. We've seen him take the checkered flag multiple times in the Soda Guys Cup Series. Tonight, he's en route with 4 more corners, 1.5 miles away from getting his first checkered flag of the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series.
And I'm watching this battle for 4th. That was looking like it was going to be a good battle, but Carson Bowers has just been struggling off of 2. For the last 3 laps, he has been gaining and gaining on this 24 machine, but every single time he gets close, he just smacks the outside wall off of 2 and just loses so much time. So now he's drifting off of 2, trying to gain as much time as he can.
Crossing the line for the victory is going to be Boyd Hogan. It's Junior Motorsports' 2nd win of the season. They only had 1 other win coming into this race. That was courtesy of Jacob Sharbas. Carson Bowers trying to get to Brandon Andrews, gets the wall off of 4. He's keeping his foot in the throttle, and he'll cross the line in 5th through the grass. A last-ditch effort to try and get that 4th position.
Had to do everything he could to get that position and gets it done. And also Tim Williams able to hold off Kyle Payne for that 13th position. Both their drivers were 2 laps down. But man, what a hard run for all these drivers just trying to survive Kansas, as this track ate up a lot of machines.
Yeah, and I know that it was only 150 laps here this evening, but I don't know why it seemed like this race seemed to go on and on and on. I don't know if the drivers felt that, but I'm exhausted up here. I can only imagine mentally and physically what these drivers are feeling, but the feeling of elation inside the cockpit of that 88 as Boyd Hogan gets to burn it down for the first time here in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series.
Yeah, and I mean, Vincent Arthur, he's going to get that 2nd place. Tracy Powers in 3rd. It's weird kind of seeing a different type of podium finish than we're used to seeing of drivers up here, but it's always good to see some fresh faces up front.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if Vincent Arthur has ever done fill-in duty here. I don't think he has. Most of the time, Vincent Arthur is a off-track admin here for this series. So I think that it may be our entire top 3, all drivers making their Rapid Fire Pizza debuts.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if Vincent Arthur did do a fill-in once. I feel like he has done one, but I could be wrong and misremembering.
Well, I'll check it back in just a moment as we'll show you your full finishing results from tonight's race. And we already gave you your top three. Andrews is going to bring it home in fourth. So while he doesn't win this race, he's going to get some very good points with a lot of other drivers, a lot of his other competitors for that final playoff spot finding issues tonight. Carson Bowers, who at this point is already locked in, had a 65-point gap between himself and the cutoff line coming in, and he will continue to increase that, finishes in the top five. Matt White, 2 starts, back-to-back sixth-place finishes. He had a sixth at New Hampshire, a sixth tonight at Kansas. Chris Whitaker, Jacob Sharba, who are already locked in on wins. Great runs for them in seventh and eighth. Cody Jordan's going to bring it home last car on the lead lap in the ninth position. Jordan was only 33 points back from the cutoff line coming into this one. And Logan Helton, who spent a good portion, maybe the first third of this race out in front, going to be the first car to finish a lap down, but he will finish in the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, Helton got to see a great showing of our top from second to fourth, them battling it out there at the end there. So and you got to see some type of show, but I know that wasn't the finishes that they wanted to see. And, David Santini there in 11th, it was a wild show for him from start to finish.
Evan Longacre, another driver that we know is locked into the playoffs, going to finish in 12th. Tim Williams finished in 13th. He was the first car 2 laps down, followed by Kyle Payne. Jeffrey Meyer will finish top 15, 3 laps down in the 15th position after starting from the pole. And the rest of the drivers that finished this race out were Hilton Young and Matt Knight, 16th and 17th. And you'll see a little bit further down here on the list, Barry Stevens did actually finish this race as well. He did not. I thought he was going to, but he did not pick up the 20th position from Kevin Roy. So Roy will finish in 20th and Stevens will finish in 21st.
And man, Barry Stevens was so close to getting that position back, but I know it was a great showing for Barry Stevens at least to come back out there after sitting in pit road for 32 minutes, almost 33 minutes to get back out there, run a couple more laps to show that pace that 78 had.
And we're going to get a word with our top 3 finishers here. I took the opportunity to go back, look through the finishing results from past races. You're absolutely right, Sam. Only 2 of the 3 making their first start. Vincent Arthur did the fill-in duties for Joshua Gordon in the 93 back at the Indianapolis Road Course. So this was at least his second start of the season here in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. But let's bring in, well, we were about to bring in our third place finisher, Tracy Powers, and it looks like he just disconnected. So we are not, unfortunately, going to be able to get an interview with him. So I guess we will jump to our second place finisher, and that was Vincent Arthur. Vincent, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Do.
Well, we saw a lot of battling all the way through the field here tonight, and it seemed like a lot of the times when we saw battling up inside of the top 5, you were in the middle of it. We saw you battling quite a bit here tonight in the first half of this race with the 11, and then you and the 13 mixing it up there in the final 20 to 25 laps. Talk about the ability to pass here tonight, because we saw that as opposed to most of the other mile-and-a-half tracks, that inside line was able sometimes to be used as a passing lane.
Yeah, I mean, for most of the race, it was pretty non-existent. I was able to make the bottom work, pretty early in the run and then maybe mid-run. But, I mean, I was so loose everywhere, especially off the corner. I couldn't do anything with it. Track position was pretty much king here. So when we were up front and we had the clean air, I feel like we could have, if we could have got it into the lead early when I was going to pass the 8 car and then, put myself in the wall. But if I feel like if I didn't do that, I could have ran away with it until Boyd adjusted on his car and got back to us. But yeah, pretty much it was just track position race. The car was great, a little loose off pretty much, whatever we did to it didn't fix it. But got to thank John Jones for, giving us a solid baseline again this week. And then a little bit of adjustments here and there. And the car really came to life there at the end.
Obviously we know you were doing the fill-in duties with JD Motorsports here this evening, but you Soda Guys Cup Series drivers are going to be running Kansas during the playoffs. It's going to be the first race of the second round of the playoffs. I know that there's a difference between the Xfinity type cars and the Cup type cars, but is there any mental notes you're able to take away from this race that you might apply to that Cup race if you end up making it into the playoffs battling for the championship?
For sure. When we came to Kansas earlier this year, I feel like we had probably the best setup we've ever made, and we just didn't have the time to show for it because we got wrecked pretty early. But when we come back, it's all about line. So the top's gonna be dominant, of course, but when you put it down on the bottom, if you really hook that white line in certain parts of the corner, it turns really good, and you can make a lot of passes down there. So although there's a lot less downforce on these cars than there are in the Cup cars, there's plenty to take from it. And I'm looking forward to Kansas in the playoffs. If we get there, I feel like we can definitely lock ourselves into the Final Four with that one.
Yeah, Vincent, I mean, this race, like you said, it was just loose everywhere and everyone was sliding. But how difficult is it mentally for 150 laps to control your car and then also be aware of other machines that are sliding all over the place?
It's grueling. I mean, I've probably never been this exhausted after a race besides at a road course. It took so much concentration. I mean, I was half throttle pretty much the whole time. I used a steering ratio that was a little too quick, so I didn't have as much leeway in the wheel. But just throwing it in every quarter and hoping it would stick, and then being able to turn it with the throttle. And if you didn't get in the wall, I mean, you were struggling to get it off the corner. So I mean, it was a ton of fun, and these guys are extremely talented down here that just dominate week to week. But yeah, it was lack of grip all over the place.
Well, Vincent, obviously, we're looking forward to seeing you in your number 24 tomorrow when we get to the 2.5-mile Speedway of Indianapolis. But a great runner-up finish here tonight for you at Kansas in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. And we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
All right, thanks, guys. Well, I got to thank Rapid Fired Pizza, iRacing iFlag, FSM Customs, Shoba Racing Graphics, Abiding Love Memorial Urns, Jones Racing Setups for providing great setups, and no matter what car I'm driving. And then finally, got to thank Full Tilt Brewing Company for supporting me with everything that I do here on iRacing.
Well, that's Vincent Arthur. He does the fill-in duties here tonight to a second-place finish at Kansas Speedway. Congrats on a great run. We look forward to seeing what you can do tomorrow night. Maybe we'll get to talk to you then as well.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
And let's get in our race winner here. Well, not sure if we should bring him in just yet. Boyd Hogan is currently in the process, I think, of showing something to some off-track admins, so we don't really want to disturb him right at the moment. We'll wait until that is over. So we'll actually just use this for some of the closing thoughts here from Kansas, Sam. I mean, when we talked with Vincent about the fact that the low line was pretty much non-existent, but on fresh tires you could use it, does this maybe give us an idea of some of the other mile and a halfs we've got coming up? Because I think the only other one we have before the playoffs begin is Darlington.
Yeah, Darlington, we're pretty much going to see pretty similar things from here at Kansas to Darlington. I mean, I made the reference earlier on in the race about how much these guys are getting into the wall and how much they're using the high line. That's pretty much what we're going to be seeing Darlington, as well as these drivers trying to make slide job moves and try to get in front of drivers. But most of the time, you're going to be right there on the wall and trying to hold your line the best that you can.
6 more races remain until the playoffs begin. I mean, listen to this list. We got Road America next week, then another road course in Watkins Glen the following week. Dover, the Concrete Mile, is going to be following that. Then we go to the High Banks of Daytona. Talk about a wild card race closing on the end of the regular season. Then it's the Lady in Black at Darlington, and we cap things off rather in the regular season, setting the 12 drivers will battle for the championship at Richmond International Raceway. I mean, everything that I'm seeing right here as far as a racetrack, the one word that kind of jumps to the forefront of my mind is grueling.
Yeah, these guys, they had a mental battle here today and a physical one, that's for sure. And it's only going to continue. And it helps the fact that, we saw some of BJ McLeod slip here today with them having so many issues. It kind of shows that they are human and that this team can get beat. And I think it gives a little bit more hope to the other drivers of, hey, we still have a chance at this. And that it's just not one team that's going to dominate the rest of the season.
Well, Kansas is not only going to be appearing on the schedule in the playoffs for the Soda Guys Cup Series, but it also will be a playoff race here in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, also taking the same slot as Soda Cup, guys. It's going to be the first race of the round of 8, which is the round that's going to determine our championship final 4. Let's see if we can get a word here with Boyd Hogan, our race winner down in Victory Lane. Boyd, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, you get called in for the fill-in duties for Junior Motorsports in the number 88, your first start in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series here this evening, and you put it in Victory Lane, but you had quite a bit of battling there in the first two-thirds of this race to try and get to that point.
Yeah, it was stressful to start for sure. I on the initial start, I was trying to push Jeffrey, and he, I guess, mistimed the start and then missed a shift, and it gave me a little bit of nose damage. I had to manage attempts the first 10 or 15 laps, lost a good bit of ground to Logan, and then just methodically was able to rim ride and chase him back down a little bit, and then start the battle with him, and that was a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, I think that last restart at the very end was the last time that I got to, or the only time I got to lead on a restart. So that was a good time.
Yeah, you definitely pulled away there after that point as well. But I want to go back to the completed round of pit stops that we had and then the near completed second round of pit stops that we had. You made the call to stay out on both those occasions, stayed out the longest of a lot of the front runners. What was it that led to that type of strategy?
I mean, once you get about 15 to 20 laps on the tires, as long as your car has a decent balance, it all falls off to about the same lap time, just the way the tire is. So we were gonna, ideally, you would just run it green to the end. And I knew that Logan kind of short pitted it, and he was gonna go lap 45, and then there was gonna be one where he was gonna have to at least go about 55 to 60 laps on a run, or try to. And that just, it wasn't going to put him in a very good spot, and I felt like I was a little bit better on the long run, so I felt like I was going to get back to him anyways. And I mean, I'm not after the laps letter or anything like that. I was just trying to go out and win a race for the junior motorsports guys and for all my guys. um but yeah, it was just trying to be smart, that's all.
Yeah, Boyd, I mean, it just seemed like your car was so much faster on the long run compared to everyone else. And the way you were able to save your tires compared to everyone else was just so good. Once you got to the lead, did you feel like anyone really was going to be able to stay with you? Or did you feel like you were just going to take off from there?
Well, I know David Santini's won a lot this year, or at least that's what I was told. Logan seemed to have had pretty good pace, but I didn't really know what else or what anybody else really had going on. The 11 seemed to be pretty quick there on the short runs, but yeah. Besides that, I gotta thank David Lamb. He's put together a absolutely amazing B car package. I'm not much of an Xfinity guy. He put together a badass car for Iowa, and I just took it to Kansas and tweaked on it a little bit for a couple hours a couple days ago, and this is the finished product. So it's all thanks to him. The car was on a rail, and it was comfy, man. You could just put it right up against the fence, and it wouldn't wouldn't do anything too crazy, and just drove incredible.
Well, Midwest setup track set, Midwest track setup transferred over to Midwest track setup. Seems like it would pretty much work out there. I want to ask you one other question here, Boyd, with the fact that, the main focus, of course, would be over on the Soda Guys Cup Series where you've got 8 victories, but Kansas is going to show up again during the playoffs for that series, and it's going to be one of the races that will determine the Final Four at ISM Raceway. What, if anything, here with this Xfinity car are you able to take away to maybe apply to that Cup race?
I mean, whether it's a truck, whether it's Cup car, Xfinity, hell, it could be a late model. There's a certain feel that you're after with all these cars, and there's certain tracks that you go to where it's just you need that, and it's a feeling you get when you get a car that's just that is good. You know it's fast, and with Kansas, there's right up against the wall that little bit of a seam. I don't know if you guys can see it on the broadcast, but it's clear as day in the sim when you're racing, and it's like a cushion. And if you can get your car and put your right rear right up on that cushion, you can just rip that all day. And as long as you don't step over that line and put it in the fence, it's going to be faster than any other line, faster than any other part of the track. And that's why I've asked to fill in and run this place, because it's something I've been trying to get better at. And yeah, it's just that's what we'll be going for with the Cup car. Obviously, we have a good base going in there whenever we do go back, because myself and Tyler Sifford went. I believe we were 1-2 at Kansas last time around, so we got a good base to go into, and I learned a good bit here with the B car. So
Or we're definitely used to seeing you go to Victory Lane, the Soda Guys Cup Series, and you get your first checkered flag here tonight in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. Congratulations on a great run. We're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
awesome. Yeah. So I obviously got to shout you guys out. It's always fun to go back watch the broadcasts. I love the show that you guys put on. Rapid Fired Pizza, obviously, for supporting the series. iRacing, iFlag, FSM Customs, Shorbos Racing Graphics, everybody that kind of puts the league together. It's a lot of fun to come out and run on Thursday or Friday, Saturday, whatever. And it's definitely something enjoyable to do. Also, got to thank everybody at Legacy Esports, Austin, Derbyshire, putting together this 88 car so fast, man. The black and gold looked unbelievable. Abruzzi, Judd, all his support. As mentioned before, we got some big things in the works with them. Oculus Glasses, Butt Kicker, everybody on Slip Angle Motorsports as well. Rogue Energy. There's just, like I say, there's a lot that goes into these cars and a lot that goes into these teams, and it's just it's crazy to be part of, and really excited about that.
Well, Boyd Hogan puts Junior Motorsports in victory lane here tonight at Kansas. We congratulate you on your victory, and we look forward to seeing what you can do tomorrow in your attempt to kiss the yard of bricks at Indianapolis.
Yes, sir. We got a rocket for that, so I'm excited.
And unfortunately, as said, we do not have Tracy Powers available for an interview here. Would have been great to get his impression of his first race here in the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, but a great podium finish for him nonetheless. But we basically gave our closing remarks on tonight's race as well as the upcoming races. Let's just quickly look at Indianapolis tomorrow night as well here, Sam, because we got to see the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series drivers there, but that was the road course configuration. What's going to be the challenges that these Cup drivers are going to have to deal with tomorrow?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty similar to saving your tires and as well as utilizing the draft to your best abilities. Indy, really, with the Cup cars, it's going to be all about pit strategy, saving those tires, and how well can you stick with the car in front of you with the draft.
Drivers always want to win at one of four tracks. They want to win the 500 at Daytona. They want to win the Southern 500 at Darlington. They want to win the Coke 600 at Charlotte. And they want to win the Indianapolis Brickyard 400. So a lot of drivers are going to be gunning for that W in tomorrow night's Soda Guys Cup Series race. But thank you all for tuning into tonight's race here from the Kansas Speedway. Boyd Hogan, your winner in the fill-in duties for Junior Motorsports. And we will see you guys tomorrow night for the Soda Guys Cup Series race. Sam, as always, appreciate you joining me in the booth.
It's always a pleasure there, Seth.
We will see you guys next week as well for Rapid Fire Pizza National Series action as their regular season continues to draw towards a close. We go road course racing at Road America for that one. But for Samuel Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for tuning tonight to another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.